Hey there, it's Lara here with Witchy Wednesday for the week of July 4th to 10th, 2018. So I'm in a different location today, as you likely noticed, not indoors, but out. I'm at my camp, known as cottage in some parts, and we're fortunate enough to be able to come up here in the summer months and enjoy this lovely, part of nature. So, it's taken me a while to get to shooting this video for a multitude of reasons, and one of them is I've been looking for a spot all over the place to shoot where the light's right, and anyway, I finally settled here, and so if the sun changes and I'm going really bright or really dark, I apologize, but such is life. That's nature, right? Can't control it. And also, I have, if you saw the situation I had here, I'll post a picture of it later on Facebook and Instagram, but the way I'm set up, I forgot my tripod. It's pretty funny. And when I show you the chart later, you'll be super impressed, I'm sure. So anyway, thanks so much for being here. I really do appreciate you hanging out with me when I do these videos. For it's about the weekly astrology, if you don't know, if you haven't been here before. I talk about the pertinent weekly astrology and any new moons and full moons, any major important happenings and the energies and how those are playing out for us on the collective. And then, I get as specific as I can in these general readings. At the end of this particular video, I'm going to talk about where Jupiter will be turning direct on July 10th for each of the signs. So, hang tight for that info. But of course, if you ever want to get a personal reading with me, that really gets down to the nitty-gritty, right? We can know so much about a person, and you can gain so much insight and self-awareness and validation and healing, and really a feeling of being seen and understood from a birth chart reading, and then we can also take a look at the transits that are happening now and how certain things are, potentially impacting you according to your own personal planetary placements. So click on the link below if you want more info about that. I would love to do a reading for you. All my readings are done these days via audio recording. So we don't have to schedule a time. You give me your birth details, and then I prepare, which takes some doing. It takes quite a lot of time to thoroughly look at somebody's birth chart. And, I take what I do really seriously. I love what I do. And so even though, for example, you order the Taste of Astrology reading, it says it's a 30-minute audio. Usually it ends up being longer than that, by at least sort of 10, 15 minutes, sometimes longer. So you really are getting a lot for your investment. So click on the link if you're interested, and enough rambling about that. I have a lot to tell you today. Today my notes are handwritten because I don't have a printer here, which I realized I should probably rectify that. But, the beauty of being able to work from anywhere, sometimes you just have to go with it and MacGyver things, right? So I'm going to start by telling you the moon placement. That's usually what I do for the week. And so today the moon is entering Aries, and then Wednesday it goes into, it's entering, it's entering Aries today, and then Saturday it goes into Taurus, and then on Monday it moves into Gemini. And we've got a few really major happenings this week, so I'm going to focus there. There are some other aspects that are happening too, and I may touch on them, depending on time, but I'd like to concentrate on the major things. So I'm gonna just run down those, and then I'll break them down for you. So today, between the July 4th, and happy July 4th to any American viewers out there. We just celebrated Canada Day here, and so happy Canada Day to my fellow Canadians too. But over July 4th and 5th, depending on your time zone, Chiron is going retrograde. And so I did a two-part video series on Chiron, actually, and it's gotten quite a bit more attention than these normal weekly videos have, you know, because it's sort of a specialty video, or both of them are. So if you want to check out those two videos, it will give you a lot more insight, and it will talk about Chiron in the birth chart, and Chiron's transit through Aries, which we are going through right now for about the next 7-8 years, and it started a few months ago. So Chiron is going retrograde, and then we also have Venus entering Virgo this week, and we have, that's happening on the 9th, and then the other huge news is on July 10th, is Jupiter is turning direct in Scorpio. Next week, I'm going to start talking more in depth about eclipse season. Eclipse season is nigh. I posted a picture this morning. I went down to the lake for my morning coffee and to sort of commune with nature, which is normally what I do here. I'm usually the first one up. So, and the moon and the sun were both visible in the sky, and, you know, getting closer to each other. So there is going to be the first of 3 eclipses happening on July 12th. And this is quite unusual in terms of we normally only have 2 in a row. We're having 3 eclipses. And so, you know, as we get closer, I will talk more about that. But I'll just give you the breakdown here. So the 12th is a solar eclipse, and that's happening in Cancer. It's a new moon eclipse, right? 20 degrees Cancer. And then we have the full moon lunar eclipse on July 27th at 4 degrees Aquarius. And then again, a new moon solar eclipse August 11th at 18 degrees Leo. And so, you know, when I talk more specifically about each of these eclipses, which I will do starting next week, I will talk about who and what signs these will impact the most, right? And planetary placements, that kind of thing. But that's just a heads up. And you know, right at the end of the video, I'm going to sort of give you a bit of I'm going to leave you with something to consider moving through this season. Okay, so I'm going to break this down a little bit more here. One thing I want to mention to you before I first talk about Chiron, and then we've got Venus moving into Virgo, as I said, and then Jupiter going direct, is that we have a ton of planets in retrograde right now. So we have Mars, Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, and Neptune, all retrograde right now. And if you're not sure what retrograde is, if you haven't heard me or other astrologers talk about it before, most people are familiar with the term Mercury retrograde, but because it happens the most often, we don't think of, we don't tend to always consider the retrograde of the other planets, and they are important. So all these planets are retrograde, and this is sort of a theme throughout the summer, right? Jupiter's going to go direct on July 10th, but then, you know, Chiron's going to be retrograde as of the next couple of days, and eventually Mercury is going to go retrograde too. So throughout the summer, we have at any given time 4 to 6 planets in retrograde. So this is it's a very karmic time, right? It's a time of really kind of standing still. Like when I was thinking about this, I had something that I was comparing it to. So I don't know if you have a compass app on your phone, but I do, or if you have like a GPS app or something, it often asks you to calibrate, right? Calibrate the compass. And so you have to take the phone and you make all these motions with it, and then, you know, stand still kind of thing. And the compass gets calibrated. Well, it's almost like summer is kind of like a recalibration of the compass, so to speak. That's how I see it. So there's all this busyness that's gone on. And all these planets are going retrograde, or in retrograde right now. you know, coupled with eclipses that are transpiring, and it's kind of like we've had all this busyness, and now it's like press the pause button, let the recalibration take effect, right? And really pay attention to the direction. So that's kind of how I was thinking about it, and I hope that makes sense to you. But you know, with Chiron going retrograde, let's kind of talk about that piece for a minute. So this is again happening over today, which is the 4th and the 5th, depending on where you're located. Tomorrow, early tomorrow is in the Eastern Standard Time Zone, which is where I am. And so Chiron, again, you can learn a lot more about Chiron if you watch my other videos, but Chiron wants to make us whole, really. You know, and it does that by shining a light where we have deep spiritual wounding. You know, and it does that to encourage us to make every effort to acknowledge our wounding and to heal it, right? And therefore growing stronger in the broken places. That's really that's Chiron in a nutshell kind of thing. And so Chiron is traveling backward from July 4th to December 8th, 2018. And it's moving from 2 degrees Aries, where it is right now, and it will travel backwards to 27 degrees Pisces. So, you know, if you have planets or points in that range, Chiron will be moving back over them. Personally, I'm experiencing my own Chiron return this year, and I have Chiron at 1 degree Aries, and so this, you know, back and forth motion is really going over and over. It's really encouraging me to really, the way I see it, you know, clean up and deal with whatever remains that I haven't, you know, baggage and wounding and that kind of thing that I have yet to deal with. And I, you know, this is an ongoing process for me, as it is for everyone, but you tend to weather Chiron transits best if you're not afraid of them, and if you don't hide from them, and if you do the work, right, and you're not ignoring it or stuffing it down, that kind of thing. So this is really a time, this Chiron retrograde. Chiron is moving through the sign of Aries for the next 7-8 years, and this is, as you've heard me mention before, it's all about healing your self-identity, right? And that will largely be in whatever house Aries sits for you in your natal chart. That will be have the biggest impact there. But in general, you know, it's about embracing, acknowledging, accepting, facing your wounding, and committing to doing whatever you can to heal that, you know. So it's coming up to be cleansed, right? And it's also a really important time to deal, or to listen to your body, to pay attention to the signals that your body is sending you right now. Sorry, I'm just going to uncross my legs because my foot's falling asleep. You know, Aries is a very physical sign. And again, this Chiron transit is about healing of the identity of the self. And, you know, our bodies and our, you know, our minds and our souls, it all works together as a system, right? And so your body is very wise and intelligent if you pay attention to it. It will tell you where you need to focus, and what's not sitting right, and what's not feeling in alignment, and what is needing to be released, and all of those things. And so this is a really good time to pay attention to that between now and early December. Okay, moving on, I'm going to talk just a little bit about Venus's move into Virgo, which is happening starting July 9th and to August 6th. And so when Venus is in Virgo, you know, love is expressed in a more practical way. Venus is the planet that rules our, you know, our love, our values, our self-worth, anything we find beautiful, you know, relationships, that kind of thing. And so, you know, at this time, when Venus is in Virgo, we can tend to express our love for people and things in a more practical way. You know, taking care of the details for people, really paying attention to the small things, really, you know, doing things like, you know, practical gestures for people to show that we care, and perhaps taking care of things that we value in a more grounded, Virgo's an earth sign, practical, detail-oriented way. On the sort of lower vibrational end, you know, this can lead us to being a little nitpicky, a little critical, and you know, that's sort of not where we want to go with this energy, right? Virgo is very detail oriented, but sometimes it can get to the point of being very, very critical, because they notice all the little details, and they just want to fix things and make them better, right? I'm a Virgo rising, so I'm familiar with this energy, and that nitpickiness tends to come out more under stress, right? So pay attention if you're reacting like that, and that can be a clue that you need to relax a little bit and not try so hard to control everything. Okay, and if your anxiety is you know, kind of high in terms of relationship, or again, those things you value, your money even, then again, that's a clue, right? Virgo can be an anxious sign, always worried about getting things right and things not being just so. So take that as a clue, right? Take that as a clue that you need to sort of embrace the medicine of Pisces, which is opposite the chart to Virgo, and be a little bit more go with the flow. Not to the point of totally, you know, just checking out, but being a little bit more willing to kind of see how things play out and have a little bit more faith. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about Jupiter direct, which is huge. So exciting that this is happening. So July 10th happens to be my sister's birthday, actually. Happy birthday, Jess. So Jupiter is turning direct on July 10th, where it will remain direct throughout the rest of its transit through Scorpio and beyond, kind of thing. So beyond November 8th. And so there may, you know, you may have been experiencing Jupiter retrograde as sort of a feeling of being stalled in areas of abundance, of optimism. You know, it might be feeling like our sort of our ability to expand and see the big picture, right, has kind of stalled for a while. And so with Jupiter moving direct, we're going to feel a bit of a release and a bit of a sigh of relief in terms of those things that Jupiter rules, which again, you know, optimism, our faith, our ability to see the big picture, our perspective, luck. Jupiter is known as a benefic planet, a lucky planet, right? So we may feel a little bit more hopeful moving forward, and our fortunes could sort of turn around a bit. Now, again, I always like to mention sort of what's the potential fly in the ointment kind of thing. Well, that would be expanding out of control, because Jupiter can have a tendency to do that if it's unchecked. So, you know, where we just are so optimistic that we make foolish choices, kind of thing. You know, that would be sort of one example. But generally, you know, this is a really positive thing. And so you want to look to the house that Scorpio sits in your chart And, you know, do you have any planets in Scorpio, particularly around 13 degrees of Scorpio? Because this is where Jupiter will be stationing, so slowing down and then moving forward, right? That's from Earth's perspective. It doesn't actually do that in the sky, but it appears to do that from Earth's perspective. And so, you know, this will have an impact on everybody, depending where, particularly in the area where Scorpio sits. But if you have planets and points around 13 degrees Scorpio in particular, then, you know, it will have an impact on you. And generally, you know, 13 degrees of the fixed signs. Scorpio is a fixed sign, right? So I just, you know, when we look back on Jupiter's move through Scorpio, it was initially, like, we saw the Me Too movement. We saw all of this stuff getting dredged up, right? These sexual harassment suits, Harvey Weinstein, like all this stuff happening. That was coming to the surface to be acknowledged, and a light shone on it, right? Scorpio is not afraid to go to those places, and this Jupiter in Scorpio is shining a light on these kinds of things and these hidden matters and secrets. And so as Jupiter turns direct, we may see another surge of that kind of news, potentially. And, you know, more people coming forward and not being afraid to stand up for themselves and that kind of thing. So I just want to go quickly through each of the signs and let you know what house this is impacting you. This is most significantly based on your rising sign. So again, you know, if you're listening to me go, I don't know where Scorpio is in my chart or whatever, then, you know, if you ever get a reading with me, I always give you a copy of your birth chart and I break it down for you. I give you a little Astro 101 lesson off the top. So all of this will make sense to you when you're watching these videos or somebody else's videos. I'm sure there are other astrologers who also do that. You know, or if you know a little bit about astrology, if you know enough to draw up your own birth chart, then you'll have it, and this will give you more information. So listen for your rising sign for certain, also for your sun sign and your moon sign. That will give you layers of information as to where this Jupiter moving direct will play out for you. So I'll start with Scorpio, because with Scorpio, this is happening in your first house, right? And that is always most significant. It is the house of self. It basically impacts all areas of your life, of who you are, and how you put yourself out there, and your physical being, your initial impulses, your you know, just really it's the whole self. I want to show you something before I go any further. Sorry to cut you off here, but I have to show you this. And those of you who saw my picture yesterday on Facebook and Instagram might be waiting for, where's the chart? So I have no printer here, so I couldn't print out a chart. So I had to MacGyver it. And I made this chart on a paper plate. And I don't know how well you could see that because of the sunlight, but there it is. And so you can see there's the sun, right? The sun is in Cancer right now. And we've got Mercury and Venus in Leo. And Venus is it's going to move into Virgo, as I said. We've got Jupiter up here in Scorpio, as I'm just referring to. We've got Saturn and Pluto in Cap. We've got Mars conjunct the South Node in Aquarius. We've got Neptune in Pisces. And then there's Chiron in Aries. There's Uranus in Taurus. And then there's the moon, who will be moving around to meet the sun. And we'll have this new moon solar eclipse. But I don't know if you can see, beside a lot of these planets, there is this little symbol. It's like R with an X at the bottom, right? I wrote that there. Those are all planets in retrograde. That's what that indicates. And then, as I said, Mercury is going to join Jupiter is going to go direct. So, you know, that's my fancy chart for the day. Sometimes you just got to work with what you have, right? But I needed to show you that. So, okay, so getting back to Jupiter direct and where it's going to impact you. We've got, as I just mentioned, Scorpio, right? So that's for Scorpio rising, also to a degree Scorpio sun and Scorpio moon signs. So Sagittarius, this is in your 12th house, happening in your 12th house. And so you may have been doing a lot of inner work over the last while since Jupiter has been retrograde. The 12th house is a very sort of inner house. It's a mystical house. It's the house that rules Pisces. You know, there may have been some spiritual contemplation going on for you, and that may have been taking place on more of sort of an inner private level, right? And there can be a bit of a release of that buildup, and you're ready to sort of move that out into the world, take that energy outwards now. And so that's for Sag. And then for Capricorn, it's happening in your 11th house of friendships and connection to organizations and groups of people, your tribe. It's also about your vision for the future, like your hopes and dreams. And so that may have felt a little stalled over the last months, and now that is going to turn around, and you'll have more of a sense of optimism and hope and luck in that area of life. Aquarius, this is in your 10th house of your highest ambitions and your career path, and your public image, that kind of thing. And so, again, that area of life may have felt a little stalled, a little stifled in the last months. And now, with Jupiter moving direct, it's going to start feeling a bit more free, a bit more expansive and optimistic, that kind of thing. All right, Pisces, this is in your 9th house of higher learning, of your sort of bigger picture perspective, right? Your philosophy, your outlook, really. Also about connection to foreigners, foreign travels, long distance travels, learning about other cultures and that kind of thing. And so there may have been a feeling of stalling in that department for you, and now that's going to turn around, and again, more feeling of growth and expansion and abundance and optimism there. Okay, Aries in your 8th house. So this is about the 8th house it's a tricky house in a sense to try to translate. It's the house ruled by Scorpio. It's about power and control issues largely. It's about, you know, hidden knowledge. It's about your relationship to other people's money, and things like, you know, you'll hear people say things like insurance and taxes and you know, inheritances and that kind of thing. But really, it's about this cycle of transformation and death and rebirth and power and control. And so, you know, for Aries, there may have been, again, a feeling of being stifled somehow in this area of life. And so you're going to feel a release there, and things will start turning in a more positive direction. Okay, Taurus, this is happening in your 7th house of one-to-one relationships, of those relationships that you have, like marriages or business partnerships that are close and personal. And so if you've been feeling stalled in that area of life, then this is really good news for you, Taurus, that you will start to feel a sense of optimism there again, and things, you know, turning more positive and more abundant and that kind of thing. Gemini, this is happening in your 6th house of your daily routine, of the daily grind and all those things you do on a daily basis in your work and in service to others, and also in service to your own health and wellness in general. And so if you've been feeling a bit stalled in that area, like maybe just for example, your health has been a little kind of thing, you know, not feeling 100%, then or you're kind of trying to figure out something, is, you know, what's bothering you, like you've needed kind of maybe some answers about a health matter, that kind of thing. Well, then this is positive, because with Jupiter moving direct, there will be a moving forward and expansion there, a sense of greater hopefulness about that. For Cancer, this is in your 5th house. This is in relation to, you know, the pleasures in life. So it's about your children, or any children you're connected to at all. It's about your creative ambitions and your creative projects, and how you sort of express yourself creatively, right? And it's about your more sort of like the romance in your life, right? As well. And so if this has been feeling a little bit stagnated, then the good news is that these areas of life will start to feel more optimistic, more, you know, more free and easy, more abundant. And Leo, this is happening in your 4th house of your roots and your foundation and your home and your family. And so, again, if any of these areas of life have been feeling, you know, stalled, like if you're having issues with a property, even, for example, real estate, you know, looking for somewhere to move, or there's just been issues around that, or you've been needing to do home repairs, or you're having, you know, sort of issues with family, your family of origin, just things are not, you know, have not really been flowing in that area of life, then this is good news, because this will start to release and move forward, and things will be more hopeful and optimistic for you there. So, okay, 2 more signs. Virgo, this is happening in your 3rd house of communications, largely, right? And so anything related to that, whether it be emails, phone calls, you know, that kind of thing, text messages, any kind of communication, publishing, and also relationships on a level of like siblings and cousins and neighbors in your community, and short distance travel kind of thing. So if any of these areas have been feeling a little bit stagnant, a little bit stalled, a little bit frustrated, then you know, the good news is that this will be like a release in that area of life, and a moving forward, and a sense of greater abundance and optimism there. And last but not least, Libra in the 2nd house. And so this, you know, Jupiter retrograde in the 2nd house can be a feeling of being sort of stuck or stalled or frustrated in the areas of life that have to do with your safety and security in the world, with you know, how you use your skills and talents to make money and get resources, right? It's the resources that you value, and how you value yourself as well. Your sense of self-worth, it falls in this house. And so if these areas of life have been feeling not so expansive, then, you know, this is good news, because that will start to lighten up and to move forward and to feel more abundant and optimistic moving forward. So that's all. That's Jupiter direct through the signs. And I know this makes the video a little longer, but a lot of people have asked me to do this kind of thing. And so I'm hoping that it's just a little added layer of information for you, and it makes the video a little bit more personal rather than just, you know, very, very general. But again, if you want specifics, then there's nothing like a birth chart reading. So I just want to leave you with a final thought, and then something I want to read that's really quick as I said to you, moving into eclipse season, I think it's something important to contemplate, like just moving through the summer in general, moving with all these planets retrograde and the eclipses happening. You know, I just want to let you know that I sort of started off with this and talking about Chiron retrograde, but there's a lot of astrology happening over the course of the summer that may have us experiencing past wounds, may having some of that dredged up, you know, but it's all for the best, right? It's so that we can recognize it and we can face it and realize that we're no longer in that place, right? Whatever our past wounding is, it can really no longer hurt us unless we allow it to, right? And how do we not allow it to? We acknowledge it, we face it, we stand up to it, we commit to doing the work, to healing it. You know, not to denying it and pretending that it doesn't exist, not being ashamed of it, all those kinds of things. So I really want you to think about that over these next few months. You know, if that kind of thing comes up for you, it's not to punish you in any way. It's so that you can release these things. You can, you know, heal them and move forward with the life that you are meant to be living, right? I mentioned to you that this is a very karmic time, and so we want to deal with our karma right now. We really do, right? And we don't want to be creating negative karma for our future selves. So just keep that in mind. So the last thing I'm going to leave you with here, and I know like I'm kind of all in half in the sun and half in the shade, so I hope it's not too distracting, but I've been reading this book by John O'Donohoe. It's called Anam Cara, a book of Celtic wisdom. There it is. And Anam Cara means soul friendship. And that is like, you know, with others, also with yourself. That's putting it very simply. But I just want to read this piece because I feel like it's really relevant to what I've been discussing and to the astrology of the summer in general. So, when a well awakens in the mind, a well is an opening, right? An opening to the depths. New possibilities begin to flow, and you find within yourself a depth and excitement that you never knew you had. The art of awakening is suggested by the Irish writer James Stephens, who said, "The only barrier is our readiness." We often remain exiles, left outside the rich world of the soul, simply because we are not ready. Our task is to refine our hearts and minds. There is so much blessing and beauty near us that is destined for us, and yet it cannot enter our lives because we are not ready to receive it. The handle is on the inside of the door. Only we can open it. Our lack of readiness is often caused by blindness, fear, and lack of appreciation. When we are ready, we will be blessed. At that moment, the door of the heart becomes the gate of heaven. So, I'm going to leave you with that. I will be back next week to talk more in depth about the eclipses. Oh, my spider friend. And I wish you a beautiful week, and we'll talk soon, okay? Take care. Bye-bye.